Hey everyone, it's Mexi, and today's video is going to be quite a bit different than my typical political economy videos where I just lecture at you, giving you the cold hard facts, not giving a shit about your feelings, just kidding. But today is going to be all about the feels, and I do not have all of the answers, not even close. I am probably going to raise more questions in this video than I answer, so it might be deeply unsatisfying. Let's just get that out of the way right now. But I'm hoping to inspire some more thought, some more discussions around something that I have been thinking about a lot lately, which is how do we deal with people who harm others within our movement? I want to first start by shouting out Angie Speaks, American Johnson from Non-Compete, and Batgo, who recently all made videos addressing this topic at large and the fact that we have these quote-unquote e-celebs on the left who have been using their power to exploit or harass people within the movement, and they each shared thoughts on what they think needs changing. Check out those channels, they're great. I'm sure many other people have made videos about this. I'm just very behind on my YouTube watching at the moment. It's the start of term. But I want to reiterate something that I have said many times before, that for those of us who want to work towards a genuine revolution in the way that we are living together with one another on this earth, then we're going to have to focus on changing much more than just the material conditions. Before anyone asks me if you would like to hear me discuss the material conditions, please see any of my previous videos, any of them. Yes, we need to address the material conditions. Yes, that is going to be a significant challenge that should take up a significant portion of our energy, is changing the material conditions of production, of consumption, of survival. And of course, this will help to usher in a world in which we do treat each other and we live with each other in a more just manner. But that is not enough, and it won't be enough. What is perhaps an even greater challenge is for each and every one of us on the left to do the internal work on ourselves and our own egos to meaningfully address the fact that no matter what, no matter whether we are conscious of it or not, no matter whether we are, humble enough to admit it to ourselves or to others or not, all of the systems that we are fighting exist within us. All of them. So yes, I'm out here wanting to smash the patriarchy, but do I harbor internalized misogyny? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I do. Yes, I'm out here trying to fight capitalism, but do I sometimes fall prey to tropes of competition, of even hierarchy or merit? Yeah, unfortunately, we're all inculcated by this all day, every day. So, for example, not sorry to dunk on brocialists, but I feel like I have encountered a number of people who I believe that without adequate self-reflection are hiding their attachments to patriarchal gender norms and the power that they get from these in constructing their own identities. They hide that behind this veneer of, oh, I'm just a really enlightened Marxist who's just against identity politics. And I know there are some very principled people out there who are against bourgeois identity politics. Like, yeah, of course, this is not a discussion about that. The point is that, unfortunately, I feel like there are a number of people in this movement who are gunning for revolution, mostly because they want to enact some kind of bloody revenge wet dream of slaying everyone who has caused harm under capitalism, more so than genuinely wanting a revolution in just the mundane day-to-day interactions between caring humans supporting one another in respectful solidarity. But this framing of revolution always sat really uneasily with me because I see it as being able to remain very patriarchal. We've been harmed by capital or capitalists, so we're gonna harm everyone who harmed us and then take power. And then Yeah, we'll just usher in a stateless, classless, communist utopia in just a few simple steps after that. Should we think more about what that would look like? No, 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 no. I'm sorry. You want to talk about personal growth and emotional maturity? Sounds like new age revisionism to me. When do we get the freaking guns? But if we're not collectively doing the work we need to do to ensure that we are whole, secure people who are capable of being selfless and capable of living in harmony and compassion with others around us, then our collective ego and our collective state of being will be such that we still get a lot of people who are attached to competition and power. Generally, not being right with ourselves is something that I think contributes to us harming others. So I'm going to list 2 podcast episodes in the description box below by Adrienne Marie Brown, who I love, who wrote Immersion Strategy, who I did the Radical Creativity video about, and her sister Autumn Brown, and they're talking about restorative justice. And they have a restorative justice facilitator on the show who says that no one enters into harm for the first time by committing it. No one enters into harm for the first time by committing it. And before you at me, I realize that there are certainly exceptions to this rule, but I do actually quite believe that harm begets harm, and that often people who do harm are suffering in some way, shape, or form. The point is that there's something going on in every person who does harm. And I'm not saying that every person who is abused or depressed or anything, not everyone does do harm to others. I mean, very often people will turn that harm in on themselves. And people can break that cycle of harm. People can be harmed and heal in such a way that they don't harm themselves or others. People can commit harm and they can heal the drivers of what caused them to do harm so that they do not do so anymore in the future. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I firmly believe in people's ability to grow and learn and change and heal and find better ways to interact with themselves and with others. Even if people have committed unspeakable harm, I still don't think that that has to define who they are forever. I don't even think that there are levels of harm that are too far gone that people can't come back from that if we are really addressing the environmental causes, including material conditions and including, what's going on internally inside a person. So what I've been thinking about a lot is that I'm not sure that we have many well-developed mechanisms for holding people accountable, for those people who could be willing and able to be held accountable and to transform themselves and heal and repair the relationships that have been broken. I don't think we have good mechanisms of holding people accountable in ways that aren't just canceling them. Because I've been thinking a lot about the fact that if we want to build a future together, without cops, without prisons, without carceral punishment, then we're going to have to start really learning how to practice justice in a way that isn't the kind of patriarchal harm plus harm equals even Steven. And I think that means thinking really deeply about how we collectively heal from harm in such a way that our weakest links are, brought up so that we're all holding each other up together and stronger because of it, instead of just having people continuously purged and then having no hope whatsoever for coming back. And we're pretty quick to cancel sometimes too, right? I mean, I've actually been guilty of indirectly canceling people who I've been ready to forgive and ready to give another chance, but I did not want to be seen speaking with them out of fear that that association would make me get canceled next. And, if we're canceling everyone who has done problematic shit in their lives, we're not going to have many people left in the movement. And I am not saying we should keep toxic people around in the movement, but I'm saying, how can we heal this in a way that it isn't just, okay, you're over, and then by extension, anyone associated with you is over, and perhaps even any ideology associated with you is also over. Angie Speaks talks about this, saying that, we don't need COINTELPRO. We're doing it ourselves. We are our own cops. And we know carceral punishment doesn't work. We know that it doesn't make us any safer. I don't feel any safer if an abuser is locked up. And it doesn't get at the root cause of the harm, either material or internal, inside someone. And as much as I've cheered on the cancellation of certain people, or as much as there's certain people who have done things that have shocked me that I don't quite care to hear from again, I fear, or I worry, that ostracization or just cancellation or just punitive measures without any support or accountability process or growth process, I worry that that will not actually bring about any positive transformation in the person who did harm. And if I'm concerned with eradicating harm and getting to the root of harm, then I'm not sure that this is the best approach. I mean, we all saw that sad, embarrassing Louis C.K. comeback special and that Kevin Spacey eerie as fuck video that he posted. Let me be frank. I mean, I think these are glaring examples of the fact that, ostracization or just punitive measures without any real mechanisms for accountability or healing aren't especially effective in creating positive change in the person who has committed harm. And in fact, it might have the opposite effect. And no, it's not our fault that people are not holding themselves accountable, but people often need some kind of support to do this. Like, people aren't often self-aware enough, perhaps, to even recognize what is inside them causing them to do harm. And that's something that we really need to help people become conscious of if we're going to break the cycle of harm altogether. And I guess I worry that if there's no possible way of anyone coming back from doing harm, then what incentive do people have to really do this internal work and transform themselves? Because what's the point? Like, they're destroyed anyway. They have nothing left. There's nothing for them to hope for anymore. And I think you see that with Louis C.K., who's very, well, his whole act was like, well, who cares? I'm done. So I'm just going to join the other side. And to be clear, this does not excuse the harm that people are doing. This does not excuse the fact that it's pretty pathetic to just hear criticism and then not be able to take it and to just go to the other side. This is not about, oh, poor Louis C.K., not at all. This is like, where do people go from there, and how can we direct them or support them in directing their energy to go somewhere positive so that at the end of the day, society is a little bit safer. Society is a little bit more whole and just and compassionate. So Autumn and Adrian talk very productively, I think, about the difference between consequences and punishment, where consequences are things that are uncomfortable, they might be painful, but punishment is something that is, cruel. It's meant to hurt that person and just kind of destroy them. So, for example, consequences would be losing your job or losing your platform. That's uncomfortable, could be painful. But punishment would be, you can never have a job again. You're just ruined. So I've been trying to think about this in the context of leftist spaces and the leftist online community, which is way, way harder to think about. I feel as though, obviously, dealing with things like this in real life communities is a lot easier. I mean, it's still very difficult, but it's easier because something like an accountability process really relies on the quality of relationships between people. And in the leftist online community, we're not necessarily in community with each other in the same way. And of course, whether it's in real life or online, if either the perpetrator of harm or the survivor of harm is not capable or interested or able for any reason to enter into some kind of accountability process or whatever, then it's a non-starter, right? Like, this is not going to be something that we can just apply across the board and that'll be fine. And one of the problems, like I said, is that we're not quite in community. I mean, we are, but we aren't. And so I'm wondering if there are any ways that we can think of that would make this feel more like a community where we do actually hold responsibility to one another and we do actually, talk to one another more and we're engaged in some kind of collective project. I mean, could we maybe have like group discussions or live streams or whatever every couple of months to just talk about the state of the community, what our goals are, how we can support each other. That sounds like a real nightmare to organize. I'm just trying to think of ways that we can feel perhaps, more connected to one another, more responsible for one another, so that when harm does happen, which it will, again, it will continue to happen, that we will have some way of working that out together that doesn't necessarily involve just erasing people. Because honestly, I feel like we're all just one step away from just being completely erased, and I'm not sure that that helps. I mean, it does help to some degree. I'm not sure it makes us any safer as a community or stronger as a community. And the underlying issues, I'm not sure, are being resolved. And of course, it's difficult because the internet is just a shithole, and there's a lot of people who are just trolls, and they're just super alienated under capitalism, and the only cheap thrill they get is shocking and upsetting people on the internet and getting a rise out of them. And I'm not saying that we should keep around toxic people in our movement at all. I mean, if someone is unwilling to engage in any kind of process, then cancel away. I'm just not sure that that should be the default setting, and I'm just not sure how to go about handling this kind of stuff. But I have some questions here that I've written down. So, are there accountability processes we can work through? What would that take? How could we think about facilitation? Who should be stepping up to do that labor? And I recognize that even this idea of accountability processes asks a lot of survivors of harm of whatever kind. And, I do not want to put more stress on people who are being harmed. That's not what I'm suggesting that we do. I don't think this should be mandated of anyone. And like I said, sometimes cancellation is just all there is, right? Sometimes there's just no amount of mechanisms we can think of to work through something. But I think that we should think a bit more deeply on how we could do that collectively so that our first response is not just cancellation. Anyway, I've been talking for ages about this, it feels like, and I kind of feel like I'm just spinning in circles. So, food for thought. I really hope that this is received the way that I intended. I'm actually a little bit scared to put out this video because I do not want it to come across as if I am making excuses for harm or that I want to put any additional stress on people who have survived harm or anything like that. I'm just trying to eradicate harm. And I think we have to get to the root causes of that. And I'm not sure we're going to do that in our leftist online spaces. I hope we can do it in our face-to-face spaces and our movement building off the internet. Because, eventually we're all going to be in those communes together. When we win, guys, we are. We're all going to be in those communes together. We're going to have to learn how to live together. We're going to have to learn how to respect one another and be compassionate to one another. And when harm comes up and we don't want to have a carceral prison system, then we have to do better. We have to do better. So anyway, please check out the links in my description box and the channels I mentioned, and hopefully I am not canceled after making this video. Special thanks to my patrons now, and super special thanks to Dumbla Bua, Astro Lizard, Brian Igreja, Etienne Dubé, Ted Satterfield, Dirk Kelly, Kearez, Kat Arthur, and Pale Carlson. If you'd like to support the show, please sign up to be a monthly patron or toss me some change on PayPal Me. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in another video.